Gross violation of the Palermo Protocols. September 17, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. Trafficking in persons, the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, the Palermo Protocols. As usual, the hypocrites focus just a little bit to one side, so as to blame others for physical abduction, while leaving themselves free to play word games that result in the same crimes or worse. Observe, trafficking in persons shall mean the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring or receipt of persons, by means of the use or threat of force, or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person, for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation shall include, at a minimum, the exploitation of the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery or practices similar to slavery, servitude or the removal of organs. Read the above and think of the millions of American mothers in labor, and immediately afterward, the tiny babies just born. Is this not a position of vulnerability? Those same mothers are then immediately coerced to sign undisclosed paperwork at the hospitals, giving up their babies as wards of the state organizations. Is this not an abuse of power, involving breach of trust, color of law, fraud, deception, and threat of abduction to traffic these babies into a foreign jurisdiction and deprive them of their natural estates? I was boldly told that the hospital would keep my son if I didn't sign the paperwork. Is this not the abuse of power, to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person? Shouldn't we all be tearing these hospitals and the politicians responsible limb from limb? What gives them the right to tax-free status, when they are attacking and suborning and trafficking our children and stealing our identities under force and color of law? Then read the Miller Act and the Buck Act allowing military draft among other crimes, and tell me, are these hypocrites, every single one of them, not engaged in acts against the Palermo Protocol? Yes, they are. So how do they continue to thrive and get away with these heinous acts? Number 1, we've been asleep and allowed it. Number 2, by legalistic wordsmithing, redefining people as persons, and then redefining persons as corporations under diversity of citizenship, bullcrap. Number 3, by constructive fraud and deceit allowed by the courts upholding it. Number 4, as we have been unaware of these horrific acts of trafficking and exploitation of our children, we haven't objected, have we? Well, now we are objecting. In public. In their faces. We are exposing them for the criminals they are. Next time you see a doctor, tell them what you think of their cowardice in allowing this to go on. Next time you see a board member for any hospital, give them an earful. And sink your figurative fangs into any politician you can. If you are fed up being treated like animals by your own public employees and by the corporations they serve instead of serving you, it's time to take action. Go to www.theamericanstatesassembly.net and claim back your children. Children.